Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Walt Disney Animation Studios Trivia. Today we have the pleasure of joining our lovely friends in the 100 Acre Wood. That's right, we pulled the many adventures of Winnie the Pooh. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh is the 22nd film released in the Walt Disney Animation Studios canon. It released on March 11th, 1977 and was directed by Wolfgang Reitherman and John Lounsbury. The movie released as a double bill with The Littlest Horse Thieves. This movie is made up by 3 previously released featurettes. These featurettes came out separately over the years and then were compiled to make the feature-length film that we know today, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Walt found out about Winnie the Pooh from his daughter Diane. It is said he'd hear her laughing in her room and he'd find her reading A.A. Milne's books. As early as 1938, Walt expressed interest in getting the film rights to Pooh, but Disney didn't acquire them until 1961. Initially, Walt wanted to make a feature-length film based on the books. They had about 2/3 of the storyboards done, and there was even some animation happening in the very early stages. But after a big meeting, it was decided the studio would make featurettes that could be attached to live-action films. Walt knew that Winnie the Pooh was popular in England, but not so much in America, so he wanted to slowly familiarize the country with the stories. Once Winnie the Pooh became a household name in America, then they would compile the featurettes for the feature-length release. The first featurette released was Winnie the Pooh and the Honey Tree. It released in 1966 as a double feature with the live-action film The Ugly Dachshund. The second featurette released was Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day. It released in 1968 as a double feature with the live-action film The Horse in the Gray Flannel Suit. This was also the last short film produced by Walt Disney. He died in December 1966, but had involvement with the short 2 years prior. Since the feature-length movie including the short didn't come out until 1977, it makes The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh technically the last Walt Disney Animation Studios film that Walt had any personal involvement with. The third featurette released was Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2. This one released in 1974 as a double feature with The Island at the Top of the World. There was actually a fourth featurette called Winnie the Pooh and a Day for Eeyore, and it is included as a bonus feature on some home media editions of The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. Extra material was used to link the 3 shorts together and merge the stories for the feature-length movie. A short scene was added to bring the film to a close, originally made during the production of Blustery Day. In this scene, Christopher Robin must say goodbye to Pooh and leave the 100 Acre Wood to start school. This scene was never in the featurette because it felt too concluding. Tigger and Piglet did not appear in the first featurette, The Honey Tree. Piglet was added back into the cast for the Blustery Day following British backlash over his absence. The character Gopher was not in the books. He was Disney's creation, as they wanted an all-American character who would appeal to children and add some comedy to the project. Storyman Larry Clemens thought of having Gopher say the line, "I'm not in the book," with the double meaning of not being listed in the telephone book and also not being in the original A.A. Milne book.
After all, he's not in the book, you know.
A.A. Milne's niece claimed at one point that her uncle had intended to include a gopher in his stories. The scene where Rabbit adds Pooh's rump to his home decor was not in the original book, but reportedly Walt thought of it when he first read the book. Good idea, Walt, because that's my favorite part.
Oh, Pooh, you mess up my moose.
In terms of the box office, there's not much information out there. I'm not sure why, but there don't seem to be any numbers available online at least. What we do know is that Winnie the Pooh certainly has been successful. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh didn't win any awards as a feature-length film, but the featurette Winnie the Pooh and the Blustery Day won the 1968 Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film. The Oscar was awarded posthumously to Walt Disney. Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 was nominated for the same category 6 years later, but it lost to a short called Closed Mondays. In 1975, the soundtrack for the Tigger 2 featurette won a Grammy for Best Album for Children. All the songs for the featurettes were written by the Sherman Brothers, who also wrote the songs for Mary Poppins and The Jungle Book. The Sherman Brothers struggled to get inspiration for the songs, so they spoke to designer Tony Walton, Julie Andrews' husband at the time, who was working on Mary Poppins. He said he found comfort with Pooh, having had been a chubby kid. His love for Pooh was infectious and ended up inspiring the Sherman brothers. They felt like being kids again, thinking of Pooh as a friend.
I am short, fat, and proud of that.
The movie's score, composed by Buddy Baker, was somewhat inspired by Tchaikovsky's Peter and the Wolf, where a different instrument represents each character. There's bass clarinet for Eeyore, flute for Kanga, piccolo for Roo, clarinet for Rabbit, oboe for Piglet, French horn and ocarina for Owl, and baritone horn for Pooh. The last thing I'll say about the music is that the song Mind Over Matter is a little questionable lyrically.
And out the Pooh will go.
E.H. Shepard did the illustrations for the A.A. Milne books, and Disney wanted to keep some of that style in their animation while still making it their own. All the backgrounds for the film were outlined in ink to keep with the sketchy style of the illustrations. Animators also drew off of the style they did for backgrounds in 101 Dalmatians. The film unfolds to audiences straight out of a book, like a story literally come to life. The characters move around the pages and even interact with the text and the narrator. This certainly adds a uniquely Winnie the Pooh charm. The ending scene where Christopher Robin is walking with Pooh uses recycled animation from the Jungle Book. Let's get into the voice acting.
Hello?
Sterling Holloway voiced Pooh. This was the final Disney production to feature Sterling Holloway before his acting career came to an end 15 years prior to his death in 1992. Eeyore was voiced by Ralph Wright, an animator and storyboard writer for Disney. He was known for his endearingly gloomy personality, so he was a perfect fit for Eeyore. Walt considered Wally Bogue for the voice of Tigger, but after Walt's death, it was decided that Bogue's voice was a bit too zany for a children's film, so they cast Paul Winchell instead. Tigger's trademark laugh was ad-libbed by Paul Winchell, as well as his famous line,
TTFN, ta-ta for now.
Christopher Robin was voiced by a different actor for each of the three featurettes, since they all came out at different times. Bruce Reitherman voiced Christopher in the Honey Tree short. He's the son of director Wolfgang Reitherman. John Walmsley voiced Christopher in the Blustery Day short, as well as the final scene in the film. Making the movie was his first introduction to the stories of Winnie the Pooh, and so he had no idea that the goodbye scene was coming between Christopher and Pooh. Due to this, he said his emotion was very genuine, and it came through in his performance. Walmsley actually re-recorded the dialogue for Christopher in the Honey Tree short, for the release of The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh for consistency purposes. The third actor to voice Christopher Robin was Timothy Turner in the featurette Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2. Clint Howard, the voice of Roo, is the younger brother of Ron Howard, and the uncle of Bryce Dallas Howard. Roo was voiced by Dory Whitaker in the Tigger 2 short. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh was the last film to feature performances from Junius Matthews, Barbara Luddy, Sterling Holloway, and Sebastian Cabot. And now it's time for reoccurring Disney voice actors. There are tons, so bear with me. Sterling Holloway, voice of Pooh, also voiced Mr. Stork in Dumbo, Adult Flower in Bambi, the narrator of the Penguin sequence in The Three Caballeros, the narrator of the Peter and the Wolf short in Make Mine Music, the Cheshire Cat in Alice in Wonderland, Kaa in The Jungle Book, and Rockfort in The Aristocats. Bruce Reitherman, who voiced Christopher Robin, also voiced Mowgli in The Jungle Book. John Fiedler, voice of Piglet, also voiced Father Sexton in Robin Hood, Deacon Owl in The Rescuers, Porcupine in Fox and the Hound, and Rudy the Old Man in The Emperor's New Groove.
Well, I threw off the Emperor's Groove.
I can't believe you've done this.
Clint Howard, voice of Roo, was also Hathi Jr. in The Jungle Book. Dory Whitaker, the other voice of Roo, had a small role in Robin Hood as Tagalong the Bunny. Barbara Luddy, voice of Kanga, also voiced Lady in Lady and the Tramp, Merryweather in Sleeping Beauty, Rover in 101 Dalmatians, and Mother Sexton as well as Mother Rabbit in Robin Hood. Paul Winchell, who voiced Tigger, also voiced Shungun, a very questionable character in The Aristocats,
Shanghai, Hong Kong, Fuyang.
as well as Boomer in The Fox and the Hound. Junius Matthews, voice of Rabbit, also voiced Scotty in 101 Dalmatians and Archimedes Owl in The Sword and the Stone. Hal Smith, who voiced Owl, also voiced the slob elephant in The Jungle Book, along with Philippe in Beauty and the Beast. A pretty random collection there. Sebastian Cabot, the narrator of the movie, also voiced Bagheera and the narrator in The Jungle Book. He passed away from a stroke 5 months after the release of Winnie the Pooh. Now it's time for my favorite part, where we take a look at where Winnie the Pooh has appeared across the Disney parks in the world. There's certainly no shortage of Winnie the Pooh in the Disney parks across the world. Just as Walt envisioned, the characters of the 100 Acre Wood and their stories resonated strongly with audiences, and the popularity of Pooh and Friends has made them a staple in the Disney experience. While Winnie the Pooh characters have appeared in countless parades and shows, as well as character dining and meet and greets over the years, I'll just be covering the main permanent Winnie the Pooh features and attractions. Let's start off with the Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh Dark Ride. There are 4 of these rides across the world. The first one was in the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. It replaced Mr. Toad's Wild Ride. This ride also has Pooh's interactive queue, which incorporates a playground with children's games as entertainment for the guests while they wait. For the Disneyland version of this ride, they were tight on space and chose to replace the Country Bear Jamboree in Critter Country. This upset many die-hard Country Bear stans. The Pooh ride in Hong Kong Disneyland is actually popular enough to have fast passes, and they often run out. Shanghai's ride is much like Hong Kong's, but there's been some controversy surrounding Winnie the Pooh in China. Pooh has been largely censored in China due to memes comparing Pooh to leader Xi Jinping. The meme's popularity and use of it to criticize the Chinese government's leader became so big that the live-action Christopher Robin movie was denied a release in China in 2018. Pooh had essentially become a symbol of resistance towards the country's Communist Party and its leader. Who knew this bear of very little brain had it in him? Funny enough, Shanghai Disneyland actually has 2 Winnie the Pooh rides. The other one is called the Honey Pot Spin, which is essentially the Mad Tea Party but with honey pots. There have been rumors that these 2 attractions would be forced to re-theme, but so far that hasn't happened. The Many Adventures rides are all quite similar between the 4 parks, but in Disneyland California, they use beehives as ride vehicles rather than honey pots. Tokyo comes out on top in terms of their Winnie the Pooh ride, and let's face it, basically everything else. They don't have the same ride as the other parks, but instead they have an e-ticket attraction called Pooh's Honey Hunt. It's a trackless dark ride, and it's their Fantasyland's most popular attraction. There are a few Winnie the Pooh themed shops across the parks as well. Disneyland California, Tokyo Disneyland, and Hong Kong Disneyland all have their own version of a shop called Pooh Corner. Shanghai also has a Pooh themed shop called 100 Acre Goods. Paris is the odd girl out in this Winnie the Pooh party. You can meet some of the characters there, but that's about it. A fun random bit to close out on the parks. In 1972 and 76, Disneyland held a Winnie the Pooh for President event, where Pooh had his very own parade on Main Street, USA. There was a special stage show where Eeyore appeared as Pooh's campaign manager and Tigger as his press secretary. In this campaign, Pooh promised a heffalump in every garage and honey in every pot. Now let's finish off the video with some smackerels and fun facts. The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. The only thing is, that's only based on 17 reviews. Sebastian Cabot, the movie's narrator, was on the television show Family Affair and would often be seen reading Winnie the Pooh books to the children on the show.
On second thoughts, Buffy, I think we'll read Winnie the Pooh.
Sears was once the exclusive provider of Pooh merchandise. There was definitely mixed reception to Disney's take on Winnie the Pooh, but A.A. Milne's widow, Daphne, is said to have liked it. The title of the featurette Winnie the Pooh and Tigger 2 was a play on the slogan Tippecanoe and Tyler 2, made famous during the 1840 US presidential election. Some of the toys and furnishings shown in the main title sequence were also used in the Banks Children's Nursery for Mary Poppins. The gopher character was largely based on the beaver from Lady and the Tramp.
You realize every second 70 centimeters of water is wasted over that spillway?
Disney animator Bernie Mattinson's wife named Sylvia made a Winnie the Pooh stuffed bear to be in the live-action title sequence before the Honey Tree short begins. but when Bernie took it to show director Wolfgang Reitherman, he sadly told Bernie he already had someone else make a stuffed bear for the opening. There is a nice resolution to this story. The only thing is it took 34 years to happen. Sylvia's stuffed Winnie the Pooh would eventually be used in the 2011 film Winnie the Pooh that the studio ended up making. And that wraps it up. Thanks so much for joining on this episode of Walt Disney Animation Studios Trivia. It's always lovely to spend time with our friends in the 100 Acre Wood. Hopefully you learned something new. Let me know who your favorite Winnie the Pooh character is in the comments below. Personally, I love Rabbit, but they're all fantastic. I have playlists on my channel for more trivia videos, as well as rankings and analysis. Head on over to the Trove and check them out if that interests you. If you like this content, consider hitting like or subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And look out for future trivia episodes as well. The next movie is always a surprise. Thanks, and see you next time.